Hey everyone, welcome to Watch It Paint It. In this video I'm going to be trying to paint a Marvel United character on camera. A little bit tricky, it's not the style of painting I normally would do, but I'll give it a go, So I'm going to use Captain Marvel in this video, see how we apply some paint to her, and you can see that I've already primed her, and I've used Army Painter's colour primer, that is Dragon Red, and that's going to give me A, the prime, so I can paint on top of this quite safely, and B, it's red, and she's quite a lot of red, so this is going to do a lot of that work for me. Now, saying that, it is a darker red than I actually want her to be, so probably going to have to lighten that up, but at least it's a red, so any bits that I miss, or you can see the primer's not quite caught all of it, where you can't see anyway, but any bits that I miss, you know, it's gonna do some work for me. It's gonna just look like shaded areas of red. And to be fair, if you wanted to, if you're happy with this red, just go for it. Don't even lighten it up. I just think I'm going to take it to a lighter red. Priming it in red's a good idea because the red's going to be painful to paint over anyway. It's probably the worst colour. Maybe gold's going to be worse, but I ain't got a gold primer and I wouldn't prime it in gold anyway. But the red's going to give us a boost on the harder to paint colour. But yeah, we're going to start by painting next, and I'm going to be doing the blue first, as I do 90% of the time. Start painting the miniature sort of from the inside out. The blue is in the hardest to reach places. It's on the inside parts of the miniature, and I'm going to start with that. This is Army Painter's deep blue. It's quite a dark blue. I actually looked at lots and lots of different blues. I quite want these all to be quite vibrant. I want them to be bright. I want them to be bold. I want them to be colourful. But looking at her artwork, she does seem like, at least in this game, she's quite a dark blue. And I think this is going to be the shade that most accurately... Oh, I've got some on the hand. Damn it, I'm going to have to paint over that. Don't worry about it. But I think this is the colour that most accurately represents the artwork. And obviously, if you've watched the channel enough, you know I am a stickler for making my games look like the reference material. That's mostly just because it helps any players playing it know exactly who they are. Now, I think any blue is going to be pretty recognisable which character this is. Plus, you're not actually playing with very many miniatures in this game, are you? It's not like hordes and hordes and what's going on. There's only a handful on the table at any time. But yeah, I'm gonna go for this colour. By all means, choose different colours of blue. I looked at crystal blue, quite a bright blue, and I certainly ummed and ahed and shook it for hours. What a waste of my time, the amount of shaking required for that, and then decided not to use it. So essentially, grab yourself the artwork and go around and add blue in all those places. And yeah, for reference, I'm using Army Painter's deep blue. A little bit tricky to work out which part's actually blue on the arm, but yeah, it looks like it's sort of the upper arm, this bicep, and her tricep around the back, that's blue. The rest is going to be red. You can see that primer in the red really working for me. I'm doing such an inaccurate, rough coat of this blue, but to some degree it kind of looks like she's nearly done, and and the red's helping me because you can't really tell what should be red and what should be blue. And I think we've gone with that. Just for reference, guys, I am using Redgrass Games brushes in this video, and this is their size 2 brush. I've applied a quick base coat here. I'm now going to go and get their 00 up and touch up all of these areas, anywhere that I've missed. But I think I've showed you all the blue bits. I'm just going to go and get closer to the edges. You can see I sort of missed the back of a leg here. I could do this with a 2, but why not go down to a smaller brush, seeing as I've got one next to me. So I think that blue's come out pretty nice, about how I wanted it actually. Matches the artwork pretty well, but I'm not super impressed with it. Like, yeah, it matches the artwork, but why is it so dark when this red is so like vibrant in comparison? Let me know in the comments below if that is what colour sort of her uniform's supposed to be. It just seems very different. I mean, I think this is going to look about, and keep glancing back at the artwork, I think this is going to look about how I want, but yeah. I would have been happy with a bright blue as well. I think it looks very bold and cartoony, like the comic books more and stuff. Anyway, guys, let me not moan too much about my colour choices. I am now using Pure Red by the Army Painter. It's going on a bit not as smooth as I wanted. Let me just try mixing in bit more water, see if I can get this nice thin coats, and then I'll be able to even that up with smoothness with multiple coats. But you can see it's quite a lot brighter than the Dragon Red that I primed it with, and I think this, I'm glancing again, looks very close to the artwork in my opinion. So it's about what I want. You can see that I don't need to go super close to the edge. We can use some of that primer as the sort of shade. So it's not important to go right into the recesses. Doesn't matter if you do. I'm more than likely going to be using some wash anyway to darken this down in the recesses anyway. But I'm just saying, you know, you can use some of that primer red just as a little additional darkness in the recesses, make it work for you, or you can just paint over it. Like I said at the start of the video, it probably doesn't matter that I used Dragon Red primer. I could have just used white because I thought I'd be painting most of this in a brighter red anyway, but I do get that bonus that it's going to cover the recesses where I don't get the brush in the darker red, which is what I want it to do anyway. So yeah, I'm just going to go around, keep glancing at the artwork, working out all the bits that are red, and just paint all of those in this pure red. Well, I'm a little bit sick of seeing red right now. That's a lot of coats. Probably I'm on 3 or 4 at the moment, and I don't think I'm actually finished. I think I'd like to bring it up even brighter than I got it. So I'm now kind of glad I did prime it in red to begin with, because at least it gave me a nice red undercoat to work up from. So just while I have a little rest my mind from red, I'm going to do a hair next, and probably all the gold as well. And for that, I'm going to base this in WANDA Blonde. And that is from that new Army Painter set for Zombicide 2nd edition. And it just shows you it doesn't really matter where you get your paints, what they're designed for. They're versatile. You can use them in anything. It's a shame, actually, and I've been thinking this for a few weeks now, that Army Painter haven't done a paint set aimed specifically at Marvel United. I don't know why. I don't know what makes them choose specific games, but I think this would be nice. A lot of people have got this game. A lot of people possibly have never owned this sort of board game before, or miniatures before. You know, it's in Walmart, that sort of thing. It's got mass appeal, hasn't it? And they're starting to want to paint for the first time ever. So I think Army Painter have missed a bit of a trick there, getting a paint set aimed specifically. But yeah, like I said, this is from the Zombicide 2nd edition paint set. It really doesn't matter, but it's nice for beginners to be able to pick up a set aimed at the game that they're painting. So there you go, just filling some space while I'm painting this. Enjoy my rambling. But I'm going to do both sides of the hair in this, and I think because gold is another, this model is just full of colours that are painful to paint, but gold is another colour there's a bit of a pain in the ass to paint. So I'm going to base coat all of the gold bits very carefully, and only roughly as well. You can see I'm sort of just almost over brushing, dry brushing this on, just getting all the raised bits, which I'm going to go round and do in gold afterwards. But yeah, I'll just go around all the gold bits and just give them a little base coat of this WANDA, which is going to make it a little bit easier to paint gold on top of, I think, than the darker red. So that's that WANDA Blonde applied, and like I said, to a hair. And I've done a sort of base coat on all the bits we're going to do gold, because that'll allow the gold to go on much more easily. Then we are going to be using matte white, and I'm going to be putting that on her eyes. Probably going to do most of this off camera where I can see it a lot closer to my face, but basically got super watered down matte white. I'm hoping that will sort of do the work for me. I might have to touch up the outside of a mask a little bit, but I'm going to sort of drop some watered down white in here and let it sort of run into the recesses sort of for me. I'll just keep adding water and get it runnier and runnier. Might need to even switch down to a smaller brush. I'll see. I'm losing the point on this. The runnier I make the paint, the runnier it is, the more it will just spread once I dot it onto her eyes. But yeah, I'll go and get some white on those balls there. With the white nice and dry, I'm going to black outline those eyeballs. For that, I'm going to use some dark tone by the Army Painter. And again, it's just getting it in on the eyeballs and then it run into the outer recess, which is just going to give that comic book-esque eyes popping out. And then I'm going to have to tidy up some red and repaint in the white just to make it nice and bright again. But as you can see, it's going to give it a thick black outline. If you don't want that, don't do this step. And if you do, that's how I'm going to do it. So I finished off the eyes, as I mentioned. A couple of coats of that dark tone to pop out these eyes, and then several more coats of white, bringing it back up. Then I tidied up the mask using some Dragon Red, which was this primer that I put on, darken those eyes down, and then a bit of pure red just round to blend it in. And I think those eyes are about how I want them to look. It was what I was going for. She does look a little bit evil, but you know, it is what it is. Oh, I should mention I did the teeth in the exact same way. White in the teeth, dark tone to give the shadows and the gaps between in the mouth, and then just highlighted it back up in white. And now onto a skin, and while I had the white out, I've just mixed in some Survivor flesh, Survivor skin tone, whatever it's called. I'll obviously show that on the little overlay so you'll be able to see the name, but I can't remember exactly what it is, and I'm not about to look at the bottle while I'm trying to paint this very carefully. Anyway, I've mixed that in 50-50 with the matte white that I had out for the eyes and the teeth, which is a really pale skin tone, which I've been favouring while I've been doing the Marvel United series, mainly because I just started using Vallejo's colour and I had that pale skin tone, and I just like how it looks, a very clean look. This is heavily watered down, so it's going on very thin, and obviously it's on that dark red, so it's going to take some number of coats to build up. But yeah, I'm just going to paint the bottom of a mask nice and carefully with this 00 brush. Well, I am chuffed to pieces with how the skin tone came out. Very happy with how that's looking. I'm going to go round, and all of the bits that I did that Wanda blonde in, all the bits that are gold in the reference artwork, I'm going to go around with Army Painter's bright gold and just apply a thin coat of this to all of that. And you can see it's taking super easy, and it's giving it that metallic gold look, really. Now, do remember you did the hair in Wanda Blonde as well. If you're following along, do not paint that bit gold. I'm going to leave that as Wanda Blonde, but absolutely everywhere else that I was just doing that base sort of coat just to make this go on easier. We're going to touch up with gold. So I won't bore you with watching me do all these bits. I'll just go away and smash on some gold, and I think this miniature is going to start looking pretty jazzy at this level, and that's going to be, yeah, I think we're going to be done for the base coat at that level, and at that point, sorry, and we'll want to look at applying some washers next. So I'll be back with a very, very gold Captain Marvel. So with the gold now done, she's looking a lot more like the artwork, and absolutely awesome. I could just stop now, to be honest. Pretty happy with how this has gone, but I need to continue. And I forgot, I did say we're about done with the base coat, but I forgot that there's a whole base, and I'm quite enjoying it actually with this Marvel United game, that all the bases are all these 3D textured bases. Looks absolutely amazing, but it does involve actually having to paint it, which is a piece of art in itself. They need, you know, some effort putting in it. It's not just my usual paint it black and you're done. Speaking of painting it black though, I am using Dead Black here by the Army Painter, and I'm just going to paint in all of these cracks, all of these gaps between the sort of paving slabs. Now normally I'd probably use a wash for this, but given how wide they are on Captain Marvel and the fact that I do want them to be black, so I may as well just paint them in black. So nice, easy, straight lines. I'm not being super careful because I don't even mind if they're a bit dark around the edges too when I paint the sort of grey in that I'm going to do the paving slabs in a minute. That'll be fine. I think I'll be happy with that. These little cracks here, so I'll paint that one because it's quite big. But what I'm going to do is water down and get a smaller brush. I'm going to water down this black just so it's much, much more runnier, and it'll run into those cracks more easily. I won't just be painting them in, painting big, thick black lines. I'll just let it sort of, I'll almost build a wash for these cracks, although now, having said that, I'm now just painting a bunch in. Depends how big they are though, doesn't it? Some of them are teeny tiny. But yeah, I'll just paint all the recesses in black. I should mention, so off camera, I'll probably go down to a smaller brush. And I'm using, and I may have mentioned this already, but this is the 00 Sabre by Game Envy. And I did most of the gold off camera using this just to make sure I didn't get it in any bits I didn't want to. So links will be in the description below. And I think I get 10% off there. It's non-affiliate, so I'm not making any money out of those guys. But it will save you 10% if you're interested in picking up some smaller brushes than what I've done most of this in, which is the Red Grass Games one. Anyway guys, I'm going to go paint all that black in now, back in a mo. So I applied the black a little bit more liberally than I'd said before I went off, but you can see how wet it is. It's still wet in fact now. It's super watered down, and I just let it pool and go in and just spread it across the base where it needed to be, so I'd be able to see the cracks more easily once that's dry. I also just got the first coat rimming the base in as well, so that's got black around the outside. we'll need to touch that up later. I'm going to be on to applying some washes now, and with how I'm painting Marvel United, I'm hardly using any wash whatsoever, and I'm going to be very precise where I put it. So we're going to start with Flesh Wash, Army Painter's sort of skin tone wash, and I'm just going to apply this around the edge of her mask on her face, just between the red and her skin tone, just to darken it down a little bit, make the transition between the two colours a little bit less harsh, because I might have caught a bit of pink on the red or red on the pink. Either way, this should blend it nicely, as well as just giving it a little tiny bit of shadow where the light wouldn't be hitting around the edge of her mask. So yeah, I'll go around and do this. But that's it. That'll be all I'm doing in this Flesh Wash. That's just made that look so much better under this bit of a chin. There was some sort of, I don't know if it's the moulding, but something's up with the plastic, or my paint's gone on too thick, but it just wasn't looking very clean on that bottom edge just there. So yeah, the wash has just tidied that up really nicely already, and it's not even dry yet. Just realised I haven't done her any lipstick. I'll have to do that in a minute. I will do that off camera because it's going to be fiddly. Try and get under her nose slightly as well. Something like that. That's it. That's one wash down. We've got a couple more to go, and I'm going to be using Army Painter's blue tone for the blue wash around her blue parts of her suit, her uniform. Do you call it a suit or a uniform? I feel like it's her uniform. Again, just going to be super precise, or as precise as I can be. Really just painting this in exactly where I want it to be. So she has got a few. So, ooh, that was rubbish. I'll touch that back up with the dark blue or whatever it was that I used originally. I just spilled that into the wrong area. So I've done that. And then there's a couple of other recesses. She's got one on each leg. So I'm going to paint both of those in. It's down the back of her legs as well. Get the brush right between her buttocks. Get that in there. She's got a bit under her bum here too. We'll just shade that lightly. A little bit on this side too. Might blend that in a little bit better. And then the last bit is really, I'm just going to go around all of the edge, everywhere on a uniform, suit, whatever we want to call it, and just getting all of the transition bits. So between all the blue and the gold, or any blue and the red, anywhere under her armpit, may as well do as well. All the way along here too. So that's going to take me a little bit of time, but I'm not letting this spread onto any other of the flat bits. We're going to use this to make the miniature look quite flat, quite cartoony, quite comic book like, just really simple. I think it suits this chibi miniature well. And in the same way, using red tone, well, this isn't red tone actually, this is Jumpsuit shader, but it's basically red tone. Same way that we just did the blue tone, I'm going to quite carefully and precisely apply a red wash around the edge of all the red parts of the suit. I'm not going to be too worried if this goes on the gold, because I think it's going to look like a nice wash for that too. And in fact, places where I want to shade the gold, like these two bands here, I'm actually going to be getting a line of this red wash in between the two of them. Just wipe that off, save me highlighting it up too much, but yeah, just like sort of like that. And we'll get around the star as well to make that pop out, and that might need a little bit of touching up afterwards, but it shouldn't be too hard. And then it's just finding all of the red sections, and they're quite separated. It's quite obvious where to go, quite a lot of edges to just go around, and just highlight, well, sorry, not highlighting, just shade all of the edges. And with the fingers, I'm going to go between each finger. I'm not going to do this super carefully. I'll just repaint back on that pure red afterwards to make each finger pop back out. You can see this wash hopefully is not only making it look like we've got some nice shadows just around the edge of the joins, but it's also smoothing that transition. It's tidying up the gold where it's meeting this red, making it look a lot cleaner. And my base coat wasn't perfect, and it's quickly becoming a lot better. Around these wrestling ear protectors or headphones, I don't know what these are about. I mean, I guess she's got her ears under here, so it's just a bit of spacing for her ears, but looks funny. Bit of muscle showing on her back here. We'll separate those out. And again, there's a little bit of a gap between these two bits of gold here, so I'll use this same red to pop those two out and separate them, putting back in that detail there. Again, it doesn't really matter if this goes on the gold, it complements it well, but the more careful you can be, the less touching that back up. If you want it to be flat like I'm going for by the end of this, it means anywhere I've slipped too much, I'm going to have to go around and just paint back in the gold. Same on going into the red as well. Anywhere it's spread a bit too much from the edge, I'm going to touch up with the pure gold again. What was the original red? Dragon red? That dragon red is working for me as well. I can see a lot of the recesses of the red are a lot darker because I just didn't get that pure red right into them. So I was using the dragon red as a bit of a shade in some areas. So that's paying off. I can see bits as I'm now trying to paint the edges that are already darker. I was just applying this red wash to the sort of base of the hair, and I cocked up and got it on the hair, but I actually quite like how that sits. I was wondering how to shade the hair, so I'm going to go around the base with this red jumpsuit shader, but I'm also going to try and get it in the recesses. There's only a couple of her hairdo, and then we'll paint back in that WANDA. What is it, blonde? Wanda. It's pronounced Wanda. Don't know why I'm saying Wanda. That Wanda blonde, we'll touch that back up. That's very fitting for this game, isn't it? I'm going to do a minimal amount of highlighting on this miniature. I want it to look not super poppy, just quite flat, but I'm going to do a little bit. And I'm going to start with the blue, and I'm going to take that deep blue, and I'm going to mix in maybe 50-50, maybe a bit less, of a little bit of crystal blue. I just want to lighten it down ever so slightly and just catch some of the most raised bits. So her kneecap is quite on show here, and I'll try and get a little bit just down the outside of this darkened stripe. I don't even know if this is coming across on the camera. In person, it's now ever so slightly lighter than it was before. You could totally miss out this step if you don't want to add any highlights. I think that would also be fine if this is how you'd like your miniature to look. Maybe just a bicep, not even sure. Maybe I'll just paint around her boobs. Just a little line. So it gives them some shape. You can already see the shade from the recess. Well, they're pretty uneven. Not to shame her, but I'm not sure they were supposed to be. It looks good though. I'm going to leave it like that. And same on her buttocks, just a little tiny highlight just to make them stand out. Her elbow is nicely sticking out there, so we'll get a bit on that elbow and a little bit on this one. But this is as much as the highlighting as I'm going to do, really. I think that's it. That's all the highlighting. Right, I'm going to highlight up a little bit of the red. So the first thing you want to go do, and I had to do this quite a bit, is just touch up any of that pure red. If the wash bled a bit too much, just correct any of that. Just get that base colour back in, nice and bright, back to red. Then I'm going to take that pure red and mix in about 50-50 some jumpsuit. Prison jumpsuit is like just a bright orange, really. And then I'm going to just carefully, once again, same as I did with the blue, just pick out a few little places where it needs to be highlighted. Folds, knuckles sort of thing in her fingers. I'll catch all of those. And I might do 2 coats, just depending how much I want this to pop out. But once again, I'm not going for a super poppy finish this model. I'm going for very, very subtle. I'll get the bottom of a mask as well here. Just give that a little bit more brightness to it. These little ear pouches, I'm going to get around the edge of them because they've got quite a harsh edge. Just brighten that up. You could probably see it here quite well. This is just slightly bright. You could probably see it here on the ear muff sort of thing a little bit easier. It's just a slightly orange or red, just slightly brighter than that pure red. Just catching it around here. Those will stand out a bit more. And oh, her shoulder, the pads, they've got quite an edge to them just here. definitely been thinking I'll be highlighting them up the whole way through this miniature. Got a really strong edge. Get both of those. And what else will I get? Probably, what even is this? It's like a side cape. It's so weird. She's got her little belt scarf going on down here. But yeah, let's get the edge of that nice and bright down here. Pop that out a little bit. It's dead subtle though, just a little bit orangey. It does stand out in person. It's probably coming across on the camera just very subtle. I mean, it is very subtle here. I'm surrounded by bright lights and I can just see that I've highlighted it, and that's what I'm going with. By all means, same with the blue, same with all of this. If you want to pop it out more, just use brighter colours. Make it a stronger highlight. I mean, if you watch the channel, you see my other videos, I normally have very, very strong poppy highlights that stand out on the table, and I do that on purpose. I like to see those highlights from a distance. You play these games further away. I'm just painting these a lot more like there's not many miniatures in the game, so they're a lot more likely to be picked up, looked at really closely as people are picking their miniatures. I don't think they spend that much time sort of being looked at on the table, or in my experience when I've been playing this game, I barely even look at the miniatures. I'm just playing the game and seeing what's happening. Whereas, because I enjoy Marvel, I'm enjoying looking at these, picking them up, showing them off, that sort of thing. So I'm going for more of a making them look great, nice and close looking at them. Anyway, I'll go around and paint any more bits of red that need highlighting up like that. So I highlighted up Captain Marvel's hair off camera. Again, Wanda Blonde tidied it all up, just got the recesses with the shade, and then I mixed in sort of 20% white in with that Wanda Blonde just to give a brighter tip, and then the obvious place to highlight down the middle of the mohawk or the raised bits, and any strands that sort of poke out. Again, super subtle. I don't love that wash actually. Maybe try a lighter wash if you want a subtler mohawk, but it's fine. It's not terrible. It's just not as subtle as the rest. And then next, we're just going to touch up the gold. So I'll go away and touch up all the gold. I'm actually not going to highlight it. So I'm just going to paint up anywhere that the wash has been a bit overzealous, and just bring this star back to a shine and paint down the outside, leaving that middle with the wash in. Anywhere the reds just sort of stained it, I'm just going to bring it back to gold, and that's the highlight. I'll just bring it back to that base colour, and I think that'll look nice. Way! I have finished painting the actual miniature. Let's go and touch up this base. Oh, it's such work when these cool 3D bases. Love them. I think it's a really nice look, isn't it? It makes the miniature look classy without having to go out of your way to do so. But they're like a level of painting all by themselves, aren't they? It's not a cakewalk. You've got to go and actually do some work. It's almost like painting a miniature in its entirety again. So I'm going to just paint this like any sort of pavement, any sort of walkway, and I'm going to use Castle Grey to do so. I'm going to try and avoid going in all of the cracks where I got that black to begin with. I'm just going to leave that as the shade, and like not going to go too close to any of the sort of rocks that have fallen on top as well. Again, just going to use the black around the edge as the shadows. I'm not going to have to do that, but it is going to take me a while to paint. I might have to touch some up because it's a little bit fiddly, but you can sort of see where we're going. We've got plenty of black. Turn this around and get the other side over here. And just leaving that black on show. Got the paint quite watery, so I don't want it to run into any of these recesses, but it's spreading quite quick and easily. I probably have to do 2 coats as well, but yeah, I'm just going to go around. I'll get this closer to my face, take my time with it. I'll be getting these rocks too, and just coming down towards the pavement. But it doesn't matter if there's a bit of black on show. It's fine. It's a walkway or whatever, isn't it? It looks like it's been under siege, taking a bit of battle damage. So I don't think it matters if some black's showing through. As you can see on mine, I've got a lot of red peeping through, so I'll make sure I get rid of the red. Although once it's got a little bit of grey on it, it's just going to, it's going to be like a darky, browny red. It's going to look a bit dirty. It's going to be fine, so I'm not going to worry too much, but we'll see how this looks. Bear with me as I paint for probably about 10 minutes, just filling in all the grey. So I'm not loving how the space is coming out, so I'm just going to stipple on just a few specks of black, making it look a bit more, I think, more cartoony. And I still think it suits it really well. It's still quite clear speckles. just giving a bit more fake texture, I guess, to these slabs. Not too much, but I think it's going to hide some of the bits that I'm dissatisfied with, as well as actually being aesthetically pleasing. So yeah, I'm just going around and just catching a few little specks, just making some of those cracks that haven't stood out as well as I thought and hoped stand out. So that's just how I'm fixing this up. By all means, just paint better than I did for the base. But yeah, you can always do something like this just to make the slabs look more damaged, more war-torn, and more cracked than they are. So something like that, suddenly that all just sort of blends together and looks fine to me. Like, it's not great, but it'll do. And then for my final touch, I'm just going to use a little bit of filthy cape, this is, and I'm just going to add a little bit of an edge highlight to these paving slabs, probably just around the outside of the rim and down each edge of the slab. Just super subtle again, a little bit brighter than the highlights I was using for the actual miniature, but it's a very thin line. Slow and steady, I guess, is the key here. Just back and forth, gently, gently, softly, softly, catchy monkey, until some paint just catches on the edge where I want it. Very, very subtle highlight again, as I've done with most of this paint job. Again, if you want this to pop out, just put it on thicker or a brighter highlight, so that's sort of all the way around the edge. Then I'll also just go and catch some of the edges of these rocks just to make them stand out a little bit more from the slabs that they're sat on top of. Very, very subtle, but I'm liking where it's going again. And with that, Captain Marvel is complete. Now, that did take a good couple of hours. It's a longer paint job than I would normally do. I tried to make all of the highlights super subtle, make it look really soft, make it look really flat. I think it suits the sort of chibi style. It's not a crazy popping out comic book style with strong highlights and dark recesses and stuff like that, but it's a subtle. There are recesses, there are highlights. It was slow and steady, and I think it's paid off. I think she's come out looking absolutely fantastic. This is the exact sort of look and feel I want these chibis to have on the table, and I think they are. I mentioned during the video, like, they're less poppy, the art doesn't stand out as much at a distance, but these miniatures aren't crowding the board. There's only a few, you're picking them up, you're looking at them. I want to be proud of these miniatures. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope it will help some of you hopefully get into painting. I'm not an expert painter, and I don't spend days painting a single miniature. I'm quite quick even when I'm painting slow and steady like this. So hopefully there's something for all of you there, especially if you're new in the hobby. Guys, let me know in the comments below who you might like to see in a future tutorial. Thank you ever so much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Do what you want, guys. Do what you want. I'm going to start this again because who knows what I'm talking about.